Hey everybody, and welcome to Adobe Desk. My name is Brent, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do this underwater aqua text effect in Photoshop Creative Cloud. So this is really cool if you want to, I don't know, create a banner, create promotional material, put on your Facebook wall, um, anything where you can display some graphic to get people's attention. I'm probably going to go off on a little bit of a water kick. It's been raining a lot where I live, so I've kind of been thinking about water, or been forced to think about water a lot lately. But it's coming into summer, so why not do some of these? All right, so let's get started. I'm going to do this tutorial a little bit different than my other ones. Normally, I'll just walk you through it from beginning to end, but since this one has a lot of specific presets or numbers that you need to hit, I don't have them memorized. I got through it like this, just kind of doing it freehand and kind of setting the numbers however I thought looked good. But I think it looks good, and I'm gonna go through this image here, a completed image, and just show you what numbers I had on all these different effects. So I'll start by just taking away everything, and you can see how I built this from the ground up. I started by just painting the background this light blue, I guess almost teal kind of color. I'll go ahead and grab a brush so I can select that layer. Actually, I need to use the paint bucket is what I'm thinking. Eyedrop it so I can see what color it is, and I'll just do this. I'll show you the code of the color I used in case you want to follow along with the exact colors that I used. So this one is 17CBFF. Okay. I then created a new layer, and I kind of painted around the edges with a large brush like this. So I just grabbed that color, which I'll select that, grab that color so you can see what that is. Yeah, which is 11BCF7. Again, just kind of pick these colors at random. I was just going by eyesight. Third, I created a new layer, which is this, but I didn't create this yet. I created the text first. So I'll go into the text, then I'll show you how I applied that in a minute. So I created two layers of text, one for the main title, Aqua Text, and another for my brand, Adobe Desk. I won't go over the Adobe Desk one just because they're the same. It's the exact same presets. I just basically copied or made the first one here in the Aqua Text, and then copied it and just changed the text and shrank it down. So I'll just go over that one. So it's in a group here. I'll go ahead and open that up. Oops. I created two layers of text, as you can see. One is this background layer, and this, all I did on this one really was grab this color, created the text, and I made it this color code 084DA2, and then I applied an outer glow to it. And here's the presets for the outer glow. Obviously, check outer glow, select this menu. Blend mode's normal, opacity 75, noise 0. This color is again that TF459D. And I set it to Technique Software, which I've been using a heck of a lot lately. The spread is 0, size is 14, and the quality I didn't change at all. Those are the normal presets. So I created that. I also created a copy of this Aqua Text layer that went into the background as my main layer here. Now, as you can see, this is where everything is done. I right-clicked on it, and I went to blending options, and I put on a bunch of different layers or blending options on here. So I'm just going to go through them in the order that I gave them to you, or in the order that I did them, and I'll just give them to you like that because it kind of builds on top of one another. The first one was just an inner shadow. Blend mode was set to normal, and just dark, didn't matter on the color. Opacity is 75, the angle is the default 90%, no global light is checked. Distance is 5, choke is 0%, and size is 6 pixels. Quality, I didn't do anything with. I then created an inner glow and an outer glow. With the inner glow, I set the blend mode to screen, opacity 50, noise 0, just a solid white color. Under elements, the technique is softer, the source is edge, choke 11, size 18, quality I didn't do anything with. Outer glow, blend mode normal, opacity 50, noise 0. Under Elements Technique, Softer Spread 0% in size 5. And the quality I didn't do anything with, those are the presets. I then went to Gradient Overlay. Now this is where a lot of the effect and color is coming from. So the blend mode is set to normal, but the opacity is set to 100%. But I chose to put on a gradient. Obviously this is a gradient layer, but I didn't have this gradient. I had to click on the color section here, the gradient kind of sample, and create my own. So I'm just going to give you exactly what I created. You can play around with it with different colors and slide them around and see what you like the best. So on one side I just have a solid white, and on the other side I set the color to color code 292793. And I brought it in a little bit from the far left, and what that does is it just gives you more dark blue in the gradient than white. You're pulling that color into the gradient, so you'll see more of it. I also created a second color in the middle. What this does is it makes it so your gradient transitions from one color to a second and finally a third, so it's a 3-colored gradient. This middle color here is color code 72D CF5. Now, as you can see, it's pretty much set in the center. Even though I brought the dark blue in from the side a little bit, I left this in the middle because I thought it just looked good. Honestly, that was it. And the location on that is at 44%. So that is going to be where most of the effect comes from, is from these glows, shadows, and the gradient. Now the satin is the last one I put on there. This is just a kind of a neat blending effect, kind of adds a little bit of character to it. It doesn't look as uniform, which looks good since it's supposed to be a water theme or water inspired. So the color code on the satin overlay is 427 ACD, just a random color I picked. The opacity is at 100%, angle is at 104, which kind of makes the color come down from, not straight down, but over from just a little bit to the left, up and left. Distance set at 49 pixels, size is set at 57 pixels. Contour, I switched from the regular default, which is just a linear, to this curved one here, which is a Gaussian blur, or Gaussian curve. So make sure you choose the Gaussian blur on the contour. Also anti-aliased and invert are selected. So, that was a bunch. But that is everything. That is the main text, and that's really what gives this picture a lot of its character. Now, I'll put the Adobe Desk on there too, since I did the same thing for that. Now is when I came in and I created this second layer with shading, and I just painted around the text to kind of give it a shadow-like effect. Okay, so from there I added this curvature, as you can see, this curved line, which just kind of gives a little bit more character to it, almost like a reflective surface, maybe like a water refracting light in water, or a bubble or something like that. And that was done in an interesting way. I grabbed the elliptical tool, or the ellipses tool, and I created this ellipses. As you can see now, which since I have ellipses tool selected, normally you can't see it. And the reason you can't see it is because after I created it, just a regular ellipses with the fill set to white and stroke none and the pixel 1, I didn't want it, to just be sitting there on top of everything. That wouldn't look good. So I came down here and I set the fill to 0%. That pretty much makes the entire thing invisible. But since it's still technically there, you can add some effect. So I went up, I created another selected blending layer, or blending effects, and I came in here and I chose another inner shadow. On this inner shadow for the ellipses, I selected blend mode normal, solid white, opacity at 43%, angle I reversed it down to -83 in and around there, so that the shadow's coming in from the bottom of the ellipses instead of coming in from the top. Select use global light, distance is set at 34 pictures, choke 0, size 24, didn't mess with quality at all. And the last thing I did is I made sure that that elliptical layer was right on top of the text layer, and then I just hovered my cursor over the two and I held down the Alt or Option key, and your cursor turns into this little funky box with a downward arrow whenever you hold that key while hovering over those, or between those two layers. You just click that and click where it is, and you'll put a clipping mask. You'll turn that elliptical curve into a clipping mask on top of the Aqua text layer, which is how you get this effect right here. It automatically does it. Clipping masks are awesome. I've been using them. I've been experimenting with them a lot lately. And this is just one more little thing I chose to do. So that's how it turned out. So as you can see in the normal image, you don't see the ellipses. You just see the shadow overlaid, clipped on top of the text. So now the very last thing I did was create a whole bunch of bubbles just to fill in the empty space and give it a little bit of a movement, a little bit of action to it. Now these are all put into a group. If I open the group, you'll see it's just a whole bunch of copies of the original bubble that I created. So I'm just going to, and even the bubble is a group. So it's a group, many groups within a group. So the original bubble, you'll see here, it's this guy here. This is the original one. I did two things to get this. I created an ellipses. I'm going to zoom in on that guy actually so you can kind of see, follow along how I did it. So the first thing I did is I created another ellipses, just a perfect circle, put on the blending effects, did another inner shadow. This time I set the opacity to 75%, the angle -83, global light, distance 7, choke 0, size 18. Didn't do anything with quality. And yeah, you can see that it just created this, you know, a circle with a glow in the center of it, but you don't even see the outer line, so it kind of looks like a bubble. But it didn't look enough like a bubble, so I created a bit of a reflection on top. Now this is yet another ellipses, but instead of using a shadow, I just used a gradient overlay, a clear to solid white gradient. The opacity is set to 100%, the gradient is just a white to clear, and the angle is set to -90 degrees so that the gradient moves from white at the top down to the light. And that was it. Also, the scale is set to 96%, somewhere around 100, I thought was pretty good. So I thought that looked pretty good. I went ahead and created a whole bunch of copies of it, as you can see down here, and then I just moved them around, and I always use the move tool, or you can just hold, you know, option, and you can just hold a copy of the layer. It'll make a copy for you. You can move it, and then you can hold the shift key if you have the free transform controls turned on. Just hold the shift keys to keep that 1-to-1 ratio, and you can just resize it however you want. And that's all I did. I just did that a whole bunch of times. I hit enter to accept the transform, and yeah, that's it. As you can see, it's not a whole lot of elements, really. It's just a whole lot of these blending options, especially on the text. Did a lot of work with inner shadows, inner glows, outer glows on this one, and it all kind of comes together to give you a underwater, simple text effect and kind of a banner you can use for all kinds of different things. So that's it for this tutorial. It's a pretty simple, straightforward one. Just a lot of different presets and a lot of different numbers that you can use. Feel free, obviously, to use whatever colors you want, use whatever percentages you want, modify it however you want. I just figured going through them, you could really see with the options that I chose exactly how I got this. But play with it however you want. So that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.